Hello and welcome to session 2 on rounding. Let's get started with our maths meeting. We've got 6 squared, the small 2 there, the superscript 2 means we need to times 6 by itself twice and then take away 10. Dividing by 100, use your place value grid. Got a subtraction. Be careful because this number has one decimal place, whereas this one has 2 decimal places, and you still have to keep your decimal points lined up carefully. And then we've got a column multiplication and a short division. Pause the screen and work them out. And let's look together at the answers in 3, 2, 1, 0. I think the trickiest one on there might have been the subtraction. For this, you can always put a 0 to show that there are no hundredths, and then look at it a little bit like money. £56, 50 pence, and £21 and 9 pence. If that helps, you can always think of your decimals as money. Okay, yesterday's work then. Lots of rounding numbers to the nearest 10, 100 and 1000. Pause the screen and mark yesterday's work. And let's move on to our recap in 3, 2, 1, 0. So yesterday we were rounding to the nearest 10, 100, 1000. Here's our recap. Round 423,325 to the nearest 10. So we're rounding to the nearest 10. We need to look at the 10. The ones behind it, if it's 5 and above, we round up. If it was below 5, we'd round down. Write your answer. And here's my answer, 423,330. It's 5, so we round it up. The next 10 after 20 is 30, so we round it up to 30 there. Okay, if we're rounding up to nearest 100, we need to look for the hundreds, which is the 3 here, 300. And then we need to look at the tens. If it's 5 or above, 5 or more tens, we can round up. If it's below 5 tens, we round down. Write your answer. And let's look together in 3, 2, 1. 423,300. There's 2 tens, which is below 5 tens, so we can round it down to 300 rather than up to 400. Remember, rounding to nearest thousands, we've got 3,000 here, and after it we've got 325. Can you write down your answer? And we'll look together. 423,000. There are 3 hundreds, which is below 500s, so we round down to 3,000. Well done if you got all of those correct. Okay, we're keeping with rounding to the nearest 10, 100 and 1000. We're doing a little bit of problem solving. In a moment, you're going to have your own problem that looks exactly the same as this, but this one we're going to work out together. Let's start by reading the problem. These 6 sentences should explain how numbers are rounded to 10, 100 and 1000. Unfortunately, they have all been muddled up. Can you cut them out and rearrange them to make the sentences correct? Now, if you wanted to, you could make these little cards, cut them all out so that you can put them all into sentences, or you can match them, or you can write them correctly into your book. I'm going to show you how to match them, and on the next page will be the answers. So let's have a look how to work them out. So here's the start numbers. This is what's happened to them, and here are the answers. So if we start with 3,764, if I round 3,764 to the nearest 10, I'll be rounding it down because that's a 4. So the answer would be 3,760. I can scan this here and I can see that 3,760 isn't there. So this number has not been rounded to the nearest 10. Let's try rounding it to the nearest 100. 3,764. So it's 6 tens, we'll round that up. The 100 above 700 is 800, so it'll be 3,800. Again, I can scan. Is 3,800 there? Yep, there it is. Let me repeat what we did to that. We rounded it to the nearest 100. So let me grab my pen. And I can match up that 3,764 rounded to the nearest 100 equals 3,800. I can repeat the process with the next part. 5,250, it's already rounded to the nearest 10, and scanning I can see that isn't there. If I round to the nearest 100, there's my hundreds, 200s, but behind it I've got 5 tens, so I need to round up. That would be 5,300, and I can see 5,300 is there. So this one again is rounded to the nearest 100, is 5,300. Okay, let's keep going. 3,000 rounded to the nearest 10, well that's 4 there, so I'd round it down to 0, meaning my number would become 3,000. So 3,004 rounded to the nearest 10 is 3,000. So let's match those up into a sentence. And the next one, 1,985, I'd round it up because I've got 5 there, so 1,990. There is 1,990, so I've rounded it to the nearest 10 again. I can draw a line to rounding it to the nearest 10, and there is my answer up there. This one's already rounded to the nearest 10. If I round it to the nearest 100, got 3 hundreds, 4 tens, so I'd round it down to 2,300. I only have these 2 left, not there. If I round to the nearest 1,000, 2,000s, 300s, so I'd round it down to 2,000. Yep. So if I round to the nearest 1,000, my answer is 2,000. And the final one here, it says rounded to the nearest 1,000 is my only option. So 5,350 rounded to the nearest 1,000, got 300s, so I would round it down to 5,000. I can see the correct answer there. So to solve this problem, I've matched them up. I know it says cut them out, but we're working a little bit differently today. You could, if you wanted to, make the cards and cut them out, or you could write them out. This is what they look like written out. It could just be in a sentence rather than a table. Okay, so here's your problem. It's exactly the same as my problem, except obviously different numbers. I'll read it out once more. These 6 sentences should explain how numbers are rounded to 10, 100 and 1,000. Unfortunately, they have all been muddled up. Can you cut them out and rearrange them to make the sentences correct? So there are all the numbers. Pause the screen, work them out, take a picture and upload to Class Dojo. And I look forward to tomorrow's session.